Welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, episode 46. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Well, Sylvain, we're back on the mic, back on the camera. I'm back from Vegas.
Yes.
And that was
and how was your trip? How was your trip in Vegas?
You know, the trip was fine. I mean, you know, as I was sharing in that episode, it was a little freaky for me. You know, it was 10,000 people in one mask wearer. That would be me. So it's my first trip to the United States. So it was, where COVID no longer exists. Yeah, but it was wonderful to be back in the U.S. It was wonderful to be at a conference where many of my friends and business partners were, and it was great to get out. And speaking of which, I'm really looking forward. 6 more sleeps till Seattle. You and I will be together.
I know.
Together
already, next week.
Time is just evaporating.
Yeah. But this is going to be really great. We're gonna talk to a lot of people. We're gonna have our own kiosks. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We're the official podcast of the show. If you haven't got your tickets to the show, by all means go, because it's going to be fantastic. We'll all be getting together in Montreal. So Van and I, you and I will be the second time.
Bring your appetite, because there's going to be a lot of sampling going on.
Oh, fantastic. Sure. Fantastic. Yeah. A lot of sampling.
If you actually have to buy your lunch, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. and you and I are doing something different. Our first ever live stream. So we are going to try going live, which will be just a pile of fun. We'll be doing a bunch of recordings for the podcast, but we're also going to go live on the 21st in the afternoon, 2 p.m., and we'll send out some notes on LinkedIn, and you'll be able to connect with us live, and we'll stream, and we'll talk about the show. Maybe you didn't make it to the show. Maybe you're coming the next day, but whatever. We're going to be live, and maybe we'll have some special guests, and it's just going to be a pile of fun. It's just going to be a pile of fun.
So I want to ask you a question. So as we live stream, if someone comes over to see us and say hello, would we actually bring that person into the studio and talk?
Well, that's the hope. That's the hope, actually, is that people stop by and say hi, and we say, hey,
Absolutely.
Good, look. Yeah, I mean, that's the fun of live stream.
I don't know today's guest, Carl Goyette. He's going to be at Seattle, and he may actually come over for a visit.
Well, that was a smooth segue to the fellow son of Farnham, Quebec, Carl Goyette. Sons of Farnham done
That's
well.
Right.
So Carl Goyette, president.
He actually knew I was from Farnham, and we connected through social media. And honestly, I did not know he was from Farnham, and because it's a town of 8,000 people.
Right.
There's not many of us around, and so you kind of notice, and that's why. I was very happy, and he's been so successful, and it's always I'm very proud to see him do very well in the food industry, and because let's face it, if you're doing well in the food industry, you're in the hog business, you're in dairy, but this is really a very urban product. It's an urban focused company, right? Publicly traded too. So it's an exciting. I think it's an exciting business, really. So it's I was fortunate to see Carl accept our invitation.
Yeah, it's a great interview, and I didn't know of the brand as you'll hear in the interview. I didn't really participate in the category, but then I did, and I discovered some interesting stuff. So stay tuned for that interview against Carl Goyette, president and CEO of Guru Energy Corp, which is Quebec-based. Another fantastic reason to have another fantastic entrepreneur. It's wonderful to see. And speaking
lots of great stuff going on in Quebec, I have to tell you. In the food business,
yeah, it's really impressive, and I've come to know it even better thanks to this podcast. But often we're talking about that. There's also great stuff happening in the wonderful province of PEI for our Trying Stuff episode.
That's right,
Superfruit. Check that out. Very generous, all kinds of formats. Hey, this is just wonderful stuff. They got a snack size format.
Have you already tried some of them?
I have, because there's so many. I've been trying different ones. I can tell you maybe a bit of a hint as to the Trying Stuff episode. Wonderful, just wonderful products, and
it just pops, and you don't have to read the label to know it's natural. It just feels and tastes natural for sure.
Yeah,
and I've tasted some, and my kids have all tasted them. They love it. But there are some products that I haven't tried yet. So for our segment.
Yep. Same with me. So once again, Superfruit PUREe, Superfruit PUREe from the wonderful PEI. We'll be talking about them on Trying Stuff. And then last, before we get to the kind of the news, hot off the presses, Canadian Grand Prix New Product Awards finalists have been announced. Now, you and I, the Food Professor podcast, for the third year in a row, is a sponsor of that great event put on by Retail Council of Canada. And we've always agreed, part of why we do the podcast, a great way to profile great businesses doing great things. And so we'll be talking about that a little later. And
thank you so much, Michael, for the opportunity, because you have a great relationship with the Retail Council of Canada, led by Diane Brisebois, who's been on our show before, and it's great to have that connection. And I think the Canadian Grand Prix program is just an awesome program to support and encourage innovation. And Seattle next week is all going to be about food innovation, and the Grand Prix program also is about innovation.
That's right. Back to back, we're in the places where food innovation is happening. That's where we wanted to live and talk about. And this is probably the essence of the show. So we'll be interviewing lots of brands and people at Seattle, and then we'll be doing the same for Canadian Grand Prix, the opportunity to interview any of the finalists.
And at Seattle, I think we're going to be able to talk to most finalists or all finalists, right?
Yep, that's right. That's our intention, because they have an awards as well, and they do innovation. So, content a go here. Like, we got lots of great content to share with the people, which is just a pile of fun. All right, let's get on to some of the news. So let's start with the federal budget. So a weighty document. You and I both know, stepping back, that there are many asks of the federal purse. I was part of actually Retail Council's formulation of what the retail industry wanted. So all these people come together and they hold meetings where everyone who advocates for whoever comes together and says, I want, from healthcare to roads to food to, everybody says, here's what I'd like to see in the budget. I think you actually read the whole budget, which is, a feat of strength.
I needed a few gurus,
Yeah, I guess. In general, what was your impression of again, from our food industry perspective, what was your perception of the budget?
I don't know. Did you look at the budget at a high level, or?
At a high level, I looked at the budget. Yeah.
Did you find a section for agri-food and food security or agriculture? Or
I did not.
Well, you couldn't.
Maybe I missed it in the small print or something. Maybe it was on page 292 or something. But no.
I think the Trudeau government is consistent with itself, focusing on the environment, and of course it's absolutely critical to become better environmental stewards. But this year is different. I mean, there's lots going on with COVID and now this awful invasion of Ukraine. I mean, the devastation. But of course, we're likely, I hate to say this, but we're likely to see more people dying in Northeast Africa due to hunger than people dying because of the conflict itself. So the implications are grand, and all eyes are on North America. So I was actually expecting something pretty significant from a food security perspective, looking at how we can help farmers with their cash flow. I was actually just chatting with some MPs this week about this, how we can help our soil science to increase yields, how we can actually improve our logistics, all of these things. And yes, there were provisions for infrastructure, $1.9 billion over 5 years. But as you know, Michael, $1.9 billion over 5 years is to build roads and ports and everything you need.
It goes pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there's no vision. And I've always seen Canada, in light of trade deals we just signed with Europe, Asia, and North America, we could actually, with a really comprehensive logistical network vision, we can do very well north, east, west, south. I mean, we can do a lot of great things, but infrastructure has always been an issue. I mean, the CP Rail situation was another kind of an embarrassing situation. The lockout and everything just put everything in idle and preventing businesses to do business. And Canada's reputation is not great. So I was expecting a lot from the budget. Essentially, the budget did a lot for housing. Well, whether you agree with it or not, I think they should have done the same with agri-food, given the situation the world is in right now. Yeah.
As I mentioned before, I was part of a committee with ideas for Retail Council of Canada. So Retail Council of Canada represents all retail, and
Yeah.
on the other side, Michael Graydon represents food manufacturers, and at least it speaks with a unified voice. Here's the 5 things that as a retail industry, largest private sector industry, need. So it actually goes to the government and said, here's our asks. Whether we get them or not is a whole different thing. Is there?
Yeah.
I was part of that, so I had a very specific ask about Canada Post, for example. I said, listen, if you want to help small business succeed, you need a viable, vibrant Canada Post to help deliver packages. That was. But is part of the problem that there is no single entity? There's dozens of entities, all picking different places to ask for things from the government. Like, who would go and ask that, what you just asked? Who would go and advocate for that? Who would go and make space for that? Who's the association or the group of people would say, this is what we need for Canada?
I would say there's Quebec and everyone else, because in Quebec you have the very highly powerful UPA, which is the union representing farmers, and they have a lot of power, and so processors and retailers have to work with the UPA. So often the UPA is that voice, but they only represent farmers. But you're absolutely right. I mean, from a lobbying perspective, Canada is highly fragmented. There's no very powerful voice. The Canadian Federation of Agriculture has tried to position itself as a powerful voice, but unsuccessfully, to be honest. And frankly, it's unfortunate because just name a commodity: wheat, beef, whatever. You have dozens of groups representing a
provincial,
commodity.
federal, like there's got to be hundreds of them when I start adding up, right?
Exactly.
It feels like there's, and again, back to the RCC, or I'm sure Michael Graydon on the food side. There's a unified voice that at least the members of Parliament can get their heads around a specific.
But RCC works absolutely. RCC is quite influential because of that. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's simple for MPs.
Yeah. It doesn't excuse our government leaders from the issue, but at least it kind of helps raise its profile. But maybe that's missing. I don't know how to fix that.
But it's been a problem for a very long time, and that's why I think we need to make sure that that groups work together. Again, I was actually with a group in Manitoba. Proteins, big issue right now in ag. So this protein war between animal and vegetable. What do we do? How do we position ourselves? And I would say that Manitoba is a really strong case study. It has been able to unify everyone around a protein strategy. And the reason why they were able to do that is that they have few groups representing different commodities. So it was much easier. But when you go in other provinces, even Saskatchewan next door with 1 million people, it's hard to unify people around a common cause. Alberta's the same. Ontario is very fragmented as well. So it's a huge problem for sure. And when it comes to ask, now, right now, you have a very urban focused federal government in Ottawa. So they will look at agriculture through very urban lens, which is understandable. And frankly, there's nothing wrong in making agriculture or agri-food greener. I think it's important. But I didn't see anything in the budget that would actually make the agri-food sector more efficient. And that is exactly what we need right now.
Yeah, my last thoughts on this it's kind of like a one-trick pony. I get the environmental piece, so important, but there's so many other pieces. So it's a one-note song, so to speak. And there's, we need a better strategy. And I think the world is counting to some degree on Canada to help what is going to be inevitably, as you say, unfortunately, broader consequences.
Absolutely. So you can look at the food to fuel debate. What is going on with ethanol this year? I mean, Biden this week just decided to tap on ethanol to actually decrease fuel prices. But guess what's going to happen to commodity prices? They're going to go up. Farmers aren't going to complain. but we're going to have a food security problem. So there's a lot of these discussions aren't happening in Canada, unfortunately. And I think we need to talk about global food security. The Barton report 4 years ago, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, was just bang on. For the first time, we saw a very authoritative report showcasing agri-food. We should export more. Canada can become a powerhouse around the world, but we always we fall short. And with the budget, it's with the budget that you can actually empower the agri-food sector to do better.
Yeah, it was an important budget too, because at the beginning of the Trudeau's got a pretty secure place, and thanks to their alliance or whatever they've got going on with the NDP, they're pretty secure. So that it was an interesting budget to.
But hey, for retailers, we're going to save on credit cards. Did you see that?
A little bit, yeah. I mean,
it wasn't really advertised, but it was in there. So I think RCC got a win there.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the biggest file that RCC works on because it has such.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal. So it was mentioned, no specifics, of course, but it's actually in there somewhere. And so I think RCC was successful in getting the government to look into this matter, which is, for retailers, it's pretty important.
Well, and even more so because of online, right? So there's so much cash is declining, and listen, when you're doing online transactions, as Guru does, it's all credit card, man. Well, I should say that there's actually two alternative payments. You've got Interac, which more and more you can use online, and then all these buy now, pay later folks don't use credit cards. That's a whole other discussion. It's pretty interesting stuff. All right, let's move off the federal budget. Let's talk about a couple of things. In the United States, I noticed that, I don't know if you saw this, Walmart is now offering over $110,000 to attract, as a salary, to attract new truck drivers. And what strikes me about this issue, and I'd love your thoughts, is, and this is also related to the trains, is there's not a shortage of truck drivers. There's a shortage of how much people are willing to pay truck drivers to do the hard work of moving our goods. And I think that's what you're seeing. Walmart's very well respected as a place to work as a truck driver, right? It's not your indie kind of freewheeling kind of lifestyle, but it's very well respected. They got one of the largest fleets in North America. So to me, and I looked at the CN stoppage, and hey, listen,
the CP stoppage,
CP stoppage, and I looked at the compensation that the senior executives got, like 140% increases year over year, and they're going after their workers. I think there's a renaissance here of the people, of the workers, and their recognition. Maybe this is long overdue, but certainly brought to the foreground by COVID. You need these people, and they need to earn a living, and they need to, anyway.
You know what? You bring up a very good point. In some economic sectors, you're starting to see employees earn more than managers. IT. So I have a friend of mine actually who's a manager in an IT business. He's now making offers to future employees, offering a salary higher than his own salary, because it's easier to find managers now than people doing the actual work on
driving
the floor.
trains, driving the
trains, and so this is, and it got me thinking. Wow, this is interesting. Are we going to see that in the food industry? I don't know. But there's lots of talks, as you know, we talked about this before, about robotics and automation. But you know what? I'm watching this scenario very closely, because perhaps at some point we could see clerks and different positions earn more than they earn now. But could they potentially earn even more than managers? Because finding managers is now perhaps potentially arguably easier than finding people doing hard work, low pay, long hours.
And you know why it's easier, notwithstanding that, is because you can now find a manager who works in their office. That could be their home office, and they could be anywhere. Right. Well, you can't just be money anywhere when you drive a train.
They don't have to dress up. They don't have to spend money on haircuts. And so it's actually cheaper to be a manager. Yeah. But if you're actually facing customers, if you're actually at a cashier, if you're moving product, inventory, you got to dress up. You got to show up to work. You got to take the train, the bus, the car, whatever. So,
and your addressable market, so to speak, is much smaller, right? You need someone in that city. Whereas if you're hiring a manager, they can be in any city in the world practically with the new technology in the post-COVID era.
So the balance is, why do we pay managers more? responsibilities, risks, right? We make decisions. Managers make decisions, and decisions will come with some responsibilities, and managers will take on risks.
Skill,
What
experience.
I'm
Yeah.
starting to see perhaps is the manual tasks may actually be valued more than ever, perhaps even more so than seeing people making decisions that are taking risks.
Yeah.
That's the interesting balance here.
Well, it's too early to call the return of the middle class because that's been a facet of the modern economy is the decline of the middle
What
class. So
is the middle class really? I'm still looking for it. Is it under my desk? Where's the middle class?
yeah, well, I'll take you back to 1950 when we had a flourishing middle class, and that was an interesting time in post-war
I got to tell
economics.
you, being in Florida when people pay no income tax, there's no discussion about a middle class, to be honest.
Interesting. All
Oh
right,
yeah.
let me one little quick last thing, and then we'll get to our interview with Carl. Speaking of costs, inflation numbers coming out of the U.S. maybe portending what it's going to be here. 8.8% inflation
8.8%.
numbers,
Yeah.
just since biggest number since what is it, the early 80s. Do you think that has
Yeah.
some? What are your thoughts? You think that's going to resound or rebound into Canada as well?
Well, no, next week. Yeah, I'm particularly concerned, obviously, because we tend to catch up to Americans. I mean, let's face it. I mean, consumers are noticing. They're noticing different things, like lobster at $20 a pound. Did you see that?
Incredible,
20
incredible.
bucks a pound. I actually had a chat with the Lobster Council of Canada earlier this week about this, and that's when you see sometimes some marketing agencies in Canada have little thought about the domestic market and brand image. When you actually are selling lobster at $20 a pound, you're going to spook a lot of people, and people
Yeah.
may actually be moving away from the product. And so because of
Mm,
course their focus is China, Asia.
yeah.
That's where the money is. But now they're being hit by a sixth wave, so you got to rely on other markets. And so
Yeah, Shanghai, right? Completely locked down, running out of food. I mean, the zero tolerance policy in China is something to watch
it's
because
something to watch. Yeah, absolutely. And Shanghai is not. Yeah,
it's the biggest city
I
in
I I
China.
don't know if you've been to Shanghai, but I've been to Shanghai a couple of times, and it's not necessarily China. I mean,
Mm,
it's North America and China, really. And because when you go to Beijing and mainland, that's when you really feel
mm.
China. But still, putting Shanghai on the lockdown is quite a lot. I mean, it's 30 million people in Shanghai.
Yeah, it's
That's
and it's shutting. It's for a different podcast, but it's shutting down manufacturing. I mean, it
I
is
know,
yet
I
another
know.
complication of the food
So
supply
so
chain.
but I do believe that what's going on in Canada with prices is going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get
Back
people
to
to
that.
think differently. Next week not next week, but in 2 weeks from now we're releasing a new report on gardening, and
Hmm.
on April 26th and on April 28th we're actually releasing, get this, a animal uh, protein base. We're looking at whether or not plant-based products are cheaper than
Oh,
meat products, given price changes that we saw of late.
interesting.
So
Interesting.
we're comparing essentially animal protein with analogs. So we're excluding tofu. We're not looking at dairy yet. We're just looking at bacon, chicken, pork, beef, and analogs, and see pound per pound which is cheaper right now. Yeah.
Interesting. That's super interesting. We've been talking about that over the series of the podcast. We've had some trying stuff episodes and some guests. Zogolos. I think about them as
Yeah.
a delicious
Yeah.
product. We've always commented the
Oh
product's quite
yeah.
good. So it's not a matter of sacrifice, that's for sure. So
So
that's super interesting.
we're working with
End of the
Better
month.
Cart Analytics with
Mm,
Melanie Morrison, CEO, and she's been on our podcast before. They can capture like 2 million data points in an hour.
wow.
Like
Wow.
it's
Wow. Wow.
just so we're able to do this now. We're able to look at all prices across the country and compare different food categories.
Wow. So
Yep.
impressive. All right. Well, listen, obviously a story we're going to continue to follow.
Yep.
Um, And so let's now get to our trying stuff segment with our with our superfruit puree. There it is
Puree.
again. And all right, let's jump in. All right, welcome back. This is our trying stuff segment of the show. Very exciting. Trying stuff. Love this segment, and I missed doing it in our last episode in Vegas. We've got a very special product, Superfruit PUREe from PEI, the wonderful province of PEI. Check that out.
Yes.
And very
absolutely.
generous. Thank you so much to these folks.
Yes.
They sent us all kinds. You know what impressed me right off the top is the number of different formats. So they got a squeeze bottle format, right? Here's your squeeze bottle format. And they got these pouches, right? So here I got.
That was a surprise to me. I had no idea. Yeah.
Check that out. Talk about something you could just put in your briefcase or take with you or when you're traveling, right? I could have used these in Vegas. I should have thought about this, just to add to some granola or whatever. This is fantastic packaging.
And my kids, by the way, my kids love them. It's very practical, very easy.
100% natural, no sugar added. This one I'm looking at is blueberries, strawberries, cranberries. Beautiful mixture.
Yeah.
On the go, smoothies, yogurt.
You
could freeze them and make a frozen treat. Huh.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Take it on the go.
Bring them to the beach. Yeah. And there's some beautiful beaches in PEI, by the way.
Yeah. Fantastic province. Love PEI. All right. So let's get to trying. So what I've done is...
So what are you trying first?
Well, I got some yogurt with some granola.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to put in the...
I'm going to do the same. I have some Greek yogurt here, which I love, and I'll be using fruit toppings.
Nice. And that's a blueberry. I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to do the strawberry with a little blueberry in it. So let's give this a try.
Actually, between you and I, the strawberry's already gone.
Here, let me put this in. We'll kind of see this going. Oh, my learning from this is a little bit goes an incredibly long way.
I know. There's a lot of pop there. So
there's a lot of pop. So I just mix it up. So and I haven't tried this one.
I didn't put anything else. It's just Greek yogurt and fruit toppings. So
I got a bit of honey. I like to add a little bit of honey. Look at that. I've just mixed it up. I just put a spot in there. So this is going to go a super long way. Let's give it a try.
This is
so good.
This is fat. Oh, yeah.
So good.
I feel healthier already. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
Like, what a pop of flavor. And, you and I debated about, not debated, sorry, that's the wrong word, but you and I have talked about accessibility to fruits and vegetables and prices and off-season and on-season. Well, we're in the middle of not the season for this stuff, but it tastes as fresh as pudding. It's fantastic. So delicious.
Absolutely. Well, we've been using it a lot for ice cream, of course, and yogurt as well. So and it works so well. I mean, it doesn't matter. You just pour it, and you can actually. So in the morning, my wife actually uses fruit toppings on oatmeal. Yeah, very good.
Now, is this a big category in retail like this?
In puree, well, it's one of those. It's you don't buy these every day, but I think this is worthwhile considering because of how you can consume this. Like, for example, for snacks for kids or snacks to go anywhere, like you said, you can freeze them, you can bring them. Look how easy it is. You just tear here, okay, like this.
Look at that, yeah,
and then you just swallow.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
And that's it.
Wow.
And it's so natural and flavorful. And the list of ingredients is basically, well, there's nothing. So let me see here.
Ingredients: wild Canadian blueberries, Canadian berries.
They don't even add water. I mean, it's just.
Right.
Yeah.
31%. Well, anyway, listen, this is a wonderful product.
Yeah.
Proud to be proud
so
Canadian.
You got the pouches. Have you tried these?
No. What have you used that?
Actually, I just drank it.
Really?
You can do a lot of stuff with them. You can put it in a salad or do different things. But I just open it up and I'm gonna try it. Cheers!
Cheers! I'm gonna try that myself. I'm trying the wild blueberry.
Wow. Wild blueberry cranberry puree. Ah.
Oh, so good. Delicious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
And yeah, if you're thirsty, you can. So this category, of course, grocers, you'll find it in the middle of the aisle. It doesn't attract a lot of attention, but you can actually do different things with. So you can find them in the dressing section, in the section where you can find some snacks. Yeah, there's lots of you can do, and I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, this is a really great Canadian product, and I'm hoping that they'll get more
Yeah.
traction in the years to come.
Well,
Yeah,
it's fantastic product. Like all of the products we've tried, they've all just been so delicious. This one,
yeah,
again, impressed by the number of different formats and just I was surprised. Like when I think of fruit from a bottle or from a squeeze thing, right off the top, we talk about stigma with Carl. My stigma is that it's artificial and I don't know what I'm getting, but this stuff was the complete opposite of that. And I was very, very impressed. So
yeah.
congratulations to our friends at Superfruit
Yeah,
PUREe.
and thank you very much for sending this along. Even if I'm in Florida, but this is it's a keeper. We're gonna keep these products on our grocery list for sure.
Fantastic. And this is a good
Yeah,
opportunity to remind the listeners and the viewers, because we do have a YouTube site, that
yeah.
there's no obligations here. This product is just supplied by different vendors. So there's no
No
sponsorship. It's
sponsorships.
just
Yeah.
people send us stuff and we try it. So that was our trying stuff segment. All right, back to the show. Last couple of things I wanted to just chat about. The great chip war is over for now.
Yes.
So
At
it
least one
seems
war is over.
let's call it a skirmish more than a war,
Yeah.
to be fair. So I guess as these things go, it's been resolved between Frito-Lay and Loblaws, and they're going back onto the shelf. The interesting thing for me to watch is what happens now to those brands like Peter Neal and Humpty Dumpty and whatever that stepped in to fill that void. I think that's it'll be interesting to watch to see if what they did to help and fill the void in, and frankly, for a lot of consumers to test product they may not have ever
Yeah.
tried. So it'll be interesting to
Oh
see
yeah.
the outcome, right?
Absolutely. Now, Loblaw did state that they'll carry as many, in terms of volume, the same thing as before the feud. So you're right. I mean, what will happen to the Peter Neals and other
Mm-hmm.
products that have actually been able to capitalize on this stop sell? First of all, I'm happy that things got resolved. To be honest, it just doesn't look good on the industry at all. A feud like this, it was very public. It was not
Mm-hmm.
pretty.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen stop sales in the past, but this one was very public,
Yeah.
and I do believe that the Ukrainian invasion kind of allowed the story to disappear.
Mm.
I think it just allowed, I think, both Loblaws and PepsiCo to go back to the table, look at the numbers again, and agreed that this is not the right outcome for both. And so I
No.
was very pleased. But my guess over the next little while, I don't know about you, but my guess is that consumers will get a lot of promotions. They'll when they visit the
Right.
chip aisle, especially with the NHL playoffs coming. I suspect
Mm.
that there'll be a lot of deals, and Frito-Lay will want more business.
Mm.
So, because as you know, Frito-Lay is very good at store merchandising, one of the best companies, really. And I think they'll be working very hard and in re-engaging with the public in Loblaw stores. And but the other thing that got me thinking in terms of costs, we may actually see a little, more shrinkflation there going on in the chip aisle just to control costs. What are your thoughts about this whole situation?
Well, it was good to see it resolved. We've had Kara Keating, the president of Pepsi Frito
Yep.
Lay, on the show,
Yep.
and so it was good to see that move forward. As you said, it's not good for anybody. So, it was actually good for some of the alternative suppliers. I mean, it gives a chance
Well,
for the
I don't think
other players.
Loblaw's lost any sleep on this because I mean Loblaw's had options, right?
Yeah, they had options. It's an interesting case study. I'd love to see that case study. I don't think we'll ever see the full thing. And it also reminds me, there's been movement on the code of conduct discussion. So I thought
Yes.
we'd kind of end on that as the bigger picture kind of thing. So there's been some movement on that. Organization or the people publishing have published a statement, kind of what would we call it, an interim statement. So there continues to be movement on
Yeah, I
that.
actually read the statement. It's about 5 pages. I got it on Saturday. I won't tell you from whom, but I actually did get the statement, and it was quite interesting. Or I think it was last week. It was on Thursday or Friday. Anyways, uh, it's a unifying statement. There is this recognition that a code of conduct is required. Everyone actually signed off on it, and of course it also states in the report that whatever model they come up with, it needs to be authoritative, and it's actually written as we need a system with teeth, and that's kind of what Michael Graydon has been saying all along. So, and the RCC has signed on. Everyone has signed on. So but also in the report, it also states that we don't know enough. We need to explore further. We need to collect data. We need to understand what's happening. And so there'll probably be more research being conducted on the code of practice, which is, I think we're in a good place. I mean, it's an encouraging step forward, I think. And I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, right? And you want a Canadian formula. You want something to work for Canada, and so it's also recognized in the report.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk further about it. So that's great. Let's wrap it there. You and I will be seeing each other for a few days. Just looking forward to seeing you again, my
Absolutely.
friend, in person. We're going to generate lots of content and see lots of stuff at Seattle. Again, stop by the booth. Join us. We'll be doing that live stream at 2 p.m. on the 21st from live from Seattle, from Montreal. Until then, I'm Michael LeBlanc, president of Emmy LeBlanc Company, Maven Media, a bunch of other stuff. And you are?
I'm Sylvain Charbois, the food professor.
Until next episode, thanks everyone, and stay safe.
Take care.